This is Chapter 10, Section 2, and it's on Darwin's observations. The key concept here is that Darwin's voyage provided insight on evolution. As I mentioned in the previous section, Darwin was a naturalist, meaning he was a naturalist is someone who tried to explain Earth and science through natural causes. Not so much by just saying, well, because God, but just trying to say how exactly can we explain, life on Earth through more natural means, not just by simply saying, well, because God did it. And so what led to Darwin's observations, what is he observing and where is he observing it? He's over at what's called the Galapagos Islands. And these are some islands off the coast of South America. And Darwin was someone who accompanied a voyage. He was on the ship mainly to just to kind of give the captain some company and to basically just kind of like, give the captain some company, go on the land, do your biology stuff, kind of whatever. But it turned out to be a very productive trip for him. So he, one of the things he noticed as he was on these islands is that he would see like these two different turtles here. He would go to one of the islands and he would see, a turtle like this, and then go to a different island, see a turtle like this, and he just questioned why. Like, why do I see turtles like this, or tortoises, like this on this island, and tortoises like this on a different island? Or why do I see a bird with a long, slender beak on one island, and a bird with a short, kind of stubby beak on another island? Why not have a mixture of the different birds, or a mixture of the different tortoises, or, why aren't they flip-flopped? So a variation is going to be a difference in a physical trait. So variation here being like the length of neck of these tortoises, or the shape of those beaks that I was mentioning. So what Darwin noticed on his trip was that the Galapagos tortoise that lived in areas with tall plants were going to be the ones that had the long necks and legs, whereas the tortoises that lived in areas with short plants are going to have more necks that were closer to the ground. Then he noticed that finches that live in areas with really hard shelled nuts were going to be the finches that had stronger beaks. So meaning the point is that he noticed that organisms were very well suited, or very well adapted to their environment. So speaking of adaptation, an adaptation is a feature that allows an organism to better survive in its environment. So like, the bird having a stronger beak so that it could get access to the food in the harder nut shell. And there's an idea that species are able to adapt to their environment, and these adaptations can lead to a genetic change in a population. So the idea here is that species are going to, when say two different birds come together and they have their babies, they have their little baby birds, not all of those little baby birds are going to be the same. Some are going to have slightly different beak shapes than others, and that slightly different beak shape is going to allow one of those types of birds to survive better than another type. And because this beak shape is something that's coded in the genes of the bird, they can pass on the genes for that specific type of beak on to their offspring. And over time, you're going to have a slight change in the shape of the beak of the entire population, because those individuals who have that more beneficial shape for their beak are going to be able to have more offspring. And if they keep having more offspring, then over time, their offspring are going to come to dominate that population. Another observation that Darwin had was that he observed some different fossils. So he saw that fossils of extinct animals sort of resembled modern day animals, but not quite. So this is kind of an artist rendition of a fossil that Darwin found that looks very similar to the modern day armadillo that we see here in Texas. And then Darwin also found fossil shells high up in the Andes Mountains, suggesting that the Earth was much older than perhaps just a few thousand years, because fossil shells. Why would fossil shells of organisms that live in the water be all the way up in the Andes Mountains? How would they get up there that high? Another thing Darwin observed was that he saw land move from underwater to above sea level because of an earthquake, which kind of led to him hypothesizing, how those fossil shells got all the way up there in the Andes Mountains, was that slowly but surely you would keep having these earthquakes that would happen. And so say you had, this land right here, you have one earthquake, it moves up. It's right there. You have another earthquake, it moves up. Another one, and so over thousands upon thousands of years, slowly that layer of earth keeps moving up, and you have the fossil shells moving up with it. All right, that's going to do it for this section.